Facilities that had to be put in place because of the precincts no longer being there, simply washed away because of the hurricane. But they say that everything going according to plan as polls close here in about a minute or so.
All right, Skyler Henry in Raleigh, thanks so much. As he mentioned, polls in North Carolina are about to close. You're watching CBS News, America Decides.
This case.
It's like a screenplay, something straight out of Hollywood.
But it's not fiction. It's 48 hours.
Human remains found this week.
4 families shattered.
There's no physical evidence.
The mystery would haunt investigators for years.
There's some questions that have to be asked and need to be answered.
Like a John Grisham novel.
A gripping true crime original. 48 hours. Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
My name is Maddie. I'm a lawyer.
America's favorite new show is Matlock.
High fives all around.
The Supreme Court decision to end affirmative action in college admissions. Uncertainty sets in for some students of color.
Affirmative action really gave us an equal opportunity.
CBS Reports explores the historic decision and what it means for those chasing an opportunity to change their lives.
I knew that college was the ticket to break the
Welcome back to CBS News Election Headquarters in New York. It is 7:30 p.m. in the East, and polls have just closed in 3 more states, including one of the 7 key battleground states we are laser focused on. You can see them all right here in purple. In North Carolina, just closed, CBS News characterizes this race as a toss-up. In Georgia, which closed half an hour ago, CBS also characterizes this race as a toss-up. There's just too many votes still not in yet. Let's take a look at some of the other polls that just closed. We have new results to share as well. In West Virginia, CBS News projects Donald Trump wins. The former president won the state in 2020 easily, winning every county in the states, and he has won again this year. In Ohio, CBS News characterizes Ohio as lean Republican. Remember, Ohio was once a battleground, but it has shifted right over the last few election cycles. Now let's take a look at Indiana. CBS News projects Donald Trump will win the Hoosier state. Remember, that was home to his Vice President Mike Pence. And in the all-important race to 270 electoral votes, Donald Trump currently has 23 and Kamala Harris has 3. As you can see, the night is young. Want to check in with Major Garrett and Anthony Salvanto at the CBS News data desk, because as those votes come in, want to know what you're seeing in Georgia.
Hey there, Nora. So just a handful of votes, 8% in. We expect obviously over 5 million here. And you can see on the map, the counties in red are starting to report, but a lot of gray. That means we haven't gotten reports yet. I want to tell everybody why it's going to need some patience tonight. And I'm going to rewind the clock a little bit. I'm going to show you the 2020 presidential race in Georgia, but then I'm going to take you back to 8 p.m. on election night in 2020, and you see a similar pattern, right? A handful of red Republican counties had reported at that point, and still a lot of gray. So it's kind of deja vu all over again. But what happens was when we get to the end, then we fill in the whole map and we find out who won. So we're going to need some patience there in Georgia. Now, I'm going to take you to North Carolina, where we're going to start getting results in soon. But again, and Major's going to show you here why we're also going to compare this to 2020. Major?
That's right. So in North Carolina, there's some very vital areas for President Trump. All of these suburbs around Charlotte and southern Raleigh, all very important. High concentrations of exurban and suburban voters where he did very well in 2020. To contrast that, I want to show you what's very important to Vice President Harris's campaign. Raleigh-Durham, Winston-Salem, Asheville, and Charlotte. High concentrations of urban and suburban voters. All 4 of those areas have seen a population gain since 2020. Much of North Carolina's outcome will be determined right around those 4 cities and the surrounding suburbs.
In fact, I'm going to tilt this on its axis, too, and you're going to see those higher bars where that population growth has happened and where Democrats need to run up big margins.
Really interesting to see those early numbers. We'll be watching very, very closely. Anthony and Major, thank you. I want to turn now to John Dickerson because I understand you're getting some new exit poll data from North Carolina since the polls just closed there.
I am. First, to your question of late deciding voters. You were saying the Harris campaign was saying they're seeing some late deciding voters participating. Well, that is happening in North Carolina. If we look at the exit polls from North Carolina and ask, when did you decide in the last week? Kamala Harris is leading over Donald Trump 58 to 37. So there's late-breaking voters. It is happening in North Carolina, but caveat, only at 5% of the vote based on the exit polls. So it may not be a gargantuan group, but tight margins, that might be enough. I also just want to show you very quickly the gender distribution in North Carolina. We talked about the national split. 53% women, 48% men. Well, in North Carolina, we can actually go inside those numbers and see how men and women are voting. So in North Carolina, the women represent 52% of the electorate, men 48% of the electorate. Kamala Harris is winning with women 55% to 43, Donald Trump 57 to 42. So that's the emerging gender picture inside North Carolina at the moment.
And that is a 27-point gender gap there in North Carolina with these early numbers.
Yes, that's exactly right. And just for national reminder, the largest gender gap nationally was in the Clinton race against Donald Trump. That was 24 points. So a gender gap of 27 in North Carolina is larger than the national gender gap in 2016.
It could be one of the big storylines we are covering tonight. And Celia, I understand you're hearing some other information about North Carolina.
Well, we're just following some polling before this. We expect to get a more detailed breakthrough on North Carolina soon on Latinos. But this is a voting bloc. The Latino voting bloc is one that we are particularly interested tonight because of their significance in this election and how tight the races are in these battleground states. In North Carolina, 24% of Latinos are voting for the first time there. Wow. Democrats say that is the bloc that they care the most about. They call them the ghost electorate because nobody knows how they're going to go. We are talking about voters particularly who were born in this country for the most part, that perhaps their allegiances to Democratic politics are not what their parents were. And so you may start to see Donald Trump chip into some of that bloc that traditionally has been for Democrats leaning towards him. We are seeing that in the national numbers. We will certainly be following it in North Carolina. But again, 24% in North Carolina, 38% of Latino voters since 2016 have never voted before. So we know nothing about them and how they will vote today.
It's so interesting. Thank you, Cecilia. I want to turn to Robert Costa because we are getting word that Donald Trump is not done campaigning. In fact, he is calling into radio stations, trying to get people to stay in line. He called into WHT in Philadelphia, where he said, if we win Pennsylvania, we win the whole deal. Everyone has to stay in line. Who are they reaching out to at this late hour?
Nora, the campaigns are digesting this data just like us. And inside the Trump campaign tonight in Florida, they're trying to run up the score among men at this late hour. You have Stephen Miller, one of Trump's confidants, longtime policy advisors, tweeting in recent minutes, going on X, the social media platform, all the men of America need to fulfill their duty, get to the voting booth, and end what he calls the invasion of undocumented migrants at the border. You have it from Charlie Kirk, the high-profile conservative activist. Get in line now. He's very popular among young men nationwide who are conservative. He says, stay in line. And so you have Trump imploring his base, especially men, get out and vote, because they want to make sure that if female voters nationwide, especially in the suburbs of Philadelphia, are turning up, maybe even surging towards the Democrats, they need Republican men to show up. And they're saying, show up after work.
But do you think they would be doing that if they weren't worried? Does that show that they're worried?
Both campaigns are on edge. I wouldn't say anybody's feeling confident now because everyone's seeing the high turnout, but no one's quite sure inside the Harris campaign or inside the Trump campaign what exactly it means.
Wow, really interesting. You know, the other big story that we are following tonight is control of Congress. Both chambers could easily flip. Want to bring in congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane is covering that part of the story. And Scott, I know that both parties face an uphill challenge defending Congress, and there's also some news from the Senate.
Yeah, we're in this now. High stakes and the potential for high drama for control of Congress. Whoever controls the U.S. Senate could handcuff or help the next president with cabinet appointments, Supreme Court nominations, and, oh, by the way, policy. And Democrats are already in a corner. They had limited margin of error, and they just lost it. First of all, take a look at the numbers. You can see Democrats are defending far more seats than Republicans tonight, including in 3 states that were Trump states in 2020, West Virginia, Ohio, and Montana. CBS News projects the West Virginia Republican Jim Justice is the winner in West Virginia, flipping a state from blue to red. The margin for error is gone for Democrats the rest of the night in the U.S. Senate. A mirror image in the U.S. House, where Republicans are defending so many seats in seats that Joe Biden won in 2020. Nearly a dozen of the seats won that are being defended by Republicans tonight were won by Joe Biden. That includes roughly a half dozen competitive seats in New York and a half dozen competitive seats in California. It's possible one party waves through or washes through those states. If we come back in after we see the numbers, overall seats in Biden districts, overall seats in California and New York that we see as battlegrounds, we can bring in our virtual U.S. Capitol. And I'll try to stand on the center aisle of the virtual Capitol as we equip ourselves for the long night ahead. It's worth noting the entire U.S. House, all 435 seats are up tonight. I'm standing near the battleground seats. These white chairs behind me are the ones we'll watch closely all night. And a reminder, Nora, if Democrats can net a gain of 4 seats in the U.S. House, they have the majority. It'd be a Democratic Speaker of the House on January 6, 2025, in the first half of the next president's first term.
You explained that so well, and it will be a long night in terms of control of Congress. Scott McFarlane, thank you. And, you know, one of the big storylines of the night is that this is the first presidential election since the overturning of Roe versus Wade, abortion on the ballot in some 10 states to try and restore reproductive rights in those states. The Democratic Party hoping that will drive women to the polls. How do you measure what's happening tonight, Margaret?
Well, we'll be able to measure it in 10 states where it's literally on the ballot, but it is going to be a little challenging to slice the bologna, to continue John's analogy there, because sometimes people cross over party lines. What we have seen, though, in the early exit polls that CBS has conducted is that when they do talk, those are the 10 states you see right there. And by the way, Arizona, battleground. This could be a game changer possibly when it comes to driving up turnout. However, that is a state where abortion rights are already protected. It's about putting it in the Constitution. Similar story in some of the other states. Florida is going to be a really fascinating one. We'll tell you about in the 8 o'clock hour when we get those results. But broadly speaking, in the exit polls that we see, when Harris voters are asked what motivated them, number 1 issue, state of democracy. Number 2 is abortion. Economy ranks 3. For Trump voters, it's economy and it's immigration. So it's a motivating issue for Democrats. One we saw was perhaps decisive in those midterm 2022 races. In this presidential election, will it be? It's unique. The man on the ballot is the president who appointed the justices that overturned Roe versus Wade. And the woman on the ballot for the Democrats has put reproductive health care, women's reproductive health care, at the center of her campaign in a really unique way, Nora. I don't think we have ever had such a national conversation about health care in the way we have. And it's an emotional one. It's a galvanizing issue. It's an uncomfortable one. And we're going to be able to perhaps measure that in some of these key states. And we'll bring you those referendum tonight.
I want to bring in Robert Costa, who I know has some new reporting.
Just to build off Margaret's reporting, there's another intriguing storyline on abortion rights inside the Trump campaign tonight and among top Republicans. There's concern that Trump's unwillingness at times to embrace the overturn of Roe v. Wade and claim responsibility for the nominations of the Supreme Court justices who overturned it in recent years, that is softening potentially the support of evangelicals in places like North Carolina, conservative Catholics, conservative evangelicals. If Trump does not win tonight, there's a fear that it's because those who support overturning abortion rights don't show up for Trump at the numbers they need to for Trump to win.
It's fascinating because his former vice president, Mike Pence, cited the abortion stance Donald Trump has taken as the reason not to vote for him. Not January 6th, but the fact that he has left the pro-life movement.
We will continue this conversation when we come back, and we'll also talk with key members of the Trump and Harris teams. How are they feeling? CBS News coverage of America Decides, Election 2024. We'll be right back.
Get all the CBS News election information at your fingertips, including full access to interactive election maps, push alerts on major races, plus breaking news and 24/7 streaming coverage. Get the free CBS News app now.
The only thing on the road faster than a race car are rising car repair costs. But with Endurance, you'll never pay for covered car repairs again.
Just 2 claims saved us over $1,700.
If I didn't have Endurance, I would have paid over $7,000 out of pocket to repair my vehicle.
So make the call. Find out how much you could save with Endurance.
Call right now to get $300 off any plan. Call 1-833-440-3858 now.
If you love football, this is the best time of the year.
This is as big as it gets in this game. Oh my word! Oh, what a shot! What a goal! What a player! Momentous! Iconic! The stuff of absolute dreams!
Everyone's forgotten who runs this valley. Time to remind them.
Our family legacy is this ranch.
And I'll protect it with my life.
Old lions die in the jaws of younger lions, and you are the younger lion.
So we getting in this fight? We can figure out who to fight and how to fight them.
I can't do this anymore.
Well, you're gonna have to, honey. Or we're gonna lose this place.
You will ruin this family's name.
You destroy me, you destroy yourself.
I took all the risk, and I took it for you.
This war's just beginning.
The only thing left to do is to kill as much as you can before they kill you.
Don't miss the epic return of Yellowstone, premiering Sunday, November 10th.
Free CBS News app.
Come on, Julia. Oh, no. I will if you will. You go, Gail. Superstar approaching, superstar approaching.
I want to make sure that my voice is heard, but also lift up other voices.
Hey, give me some
love, baby.
We'll see you 7 o'clock sharp.
Welcome back to CBS News coverage of Election Night 2024. Take a look at this live look at crowds gathering at what is Harris headquarters tonight, otherwise known as Howard University. The vice president, the first vice president to graduate from a historically black college, and she has said publicly she hopes to be the first president to do that as well. So you can see the crowds there gathered tonight, hoping for a victory. Joining us now is Harris campaign co-chair Cedric Richmond. And Cedric, so good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. What's the inside scoop? What are you hearing inside the campaign?
Look, we have great enthusiasm. We're seeing it all over the country. If you look at young people on college campuses in North Carolina and Nevada and Georgia and Pennsylvania, you see very long lines, and they're staying in line to vote, but that enthusiasm is real, and so we're excited about it.
What can you tell us about black voter turnout, specifically in North Carolina, Georgia, those two early battlegrounds that have already closed?
African Americans came out, black people came out to vote, and I think that what we saw is that they recognize that their future is on the ballot and that they can take charge of their own future and be co-architects of their own destiny. I think that people came out to voice their support for the vice president, but more importantly, for her agenda and how it affects them.
And let me ask you, I am just hearing that in the Philly City Commissioner's office is saying they have turnout there that's the highest in decades, above even Obama in 08. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I'll tell you, we have the better candidate. We have the better person. Vice President Harris has gone everywhere. We were in Pennsylvania all day yesterday. We ended in Philadelphia. where she talked to the crowd about an opportunity economy, bringing down cost of health care, child care, and the things that are affecting people. And that on day one, she's going to have a to-do list on how to make the American people's lives better. And I think that that resonated as opposed to the contrast with her opponent and the things that he's been saying in the closing days. I think people want to be optimistic. People want to be hopeful. People want to imagine that tomorrow is going to be better than yesterday. And that's what she talked to them about, and that she's going to ensure that tomorrow is better than yesterday.
And Cedric Gayle King is with me as well. Gayle?
Cedric, it's really good to see you. There was a perception, either rightly or wrongly, that Kamala Harris had a problem with black male voters. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I don't think it was true, but I will say this. Black male voters deserve to be talked to and persuaded like every other constituency. So just like we talk to seniors, just like we talk to veterans, we should talk to black male voters and tell them that they have an opportunity in this election to be game changers. They have an opportunity in this election to make sure that the person on the other side who's talking about stop and frisk and bringing back unlimited police immunity and that police should rough up people, that we don't go back to that history. And so we expect that African-American male turnout, black male turnout, is going to be good, it's going to be on par. But the other thing the Vice President said, Gayle, that I think is very important is we don't automatically get black male vote. We have to go earn it just like we earn every other vote. And so I think that her putting out an agenda for black males and how she would focus on entrepreneurship and all of those things that would allow them to be the successful entrepreneurs and community leaders that they want to be was very impactful and very successful.
Yeah, I like the point that you're making there. Black voters are not monolithic. You know, there's a wide variety to the black voter. That said, do you think she should have put out that opportunity agenda a little earlier? Would that have made a difference in the conversation?
No, actually, I think she put it out at the right time. And black men were clamoring for it. They wanted to know what she would do. In fact, they wanted to know what both candidates would do. And if you go back, Donald Trump said, oh, I'm a convicted felon, so black men will vote for me. Oh, I'm putting out gold tennis shoes, so black men will vote for me. And what she answered with is, let me talk about education, entrepreneurship. Let me talk about home ownership. Let me talk about wealth creation. Let me talk about those things. And I think that it was the right time, the right agenda. And I think African-American men were paying close attention to what both candidates were offering. And so I think that she met that moment.
Mm-hmm. Right. Cedric Richmond, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me again.
And want to give equal time now to Republican National Committee Chair Michael Whatley. He is with us from Trump headquarters in Florida. And Michael, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. What are your internal numbers showing?
We really like what we're seeing right now in places all across the South, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, feeling very comfortable about what we're seeing there on the ground. We also are very excited about what we're seeing in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. The president is in a very good place based on what we saw with early voting, with absentee voting, for us to have a great day today. Right now, we are continuing to work very aggressively to get every last vote out. We are also working very hard to make sure that we are in place with our observers, our election integrity program. Every time a vote is cast or counted, we're ensuring that we're in the room.
And Michael, let me ask you about turnout. I know that those within the campaign are sending out messages to get men to go to the polls after work. Are you concerned about male turnout?
No, I think what we're doing is just making sure that we're doing everything we can to get every last voter out. We know that this is going to be a tight election. Every election is a tight election. These are battleground states. We call them battlegrounds for a reason, and we want to do everything we can all the way through the tape to get everybody out.
And Michael, finally, those late deciders, John Dickerson was looking inside the exit poll data, which suggests in North Carolina they are breaking toward the vice president. Is that worrying to you?
What we're seeing right now is that North Carolina, we had the first time ever that the Republicans won the early vote absentee vote. We have a lead going into Election Day. There is very few undecided voters at this point in time. The turnout has been great all across the state, and we feel cautiously optimistic we're going to have a great result in North Carolina.
Well, Michael Whatley, keep us posted. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And when we come back, the biggest poll closing time of the entire night, 16 states plus the District of Columbia. We're talking about 171 electoral votes up for grabs. Among the states, the pivotal battleground, Pennsylvania. We'll dive into the numbers. You're watching CBS News, America Decides, Election 2024.
Amazon early holiday deals are here. Woo! Woo! With everything you need to kick off the season. Woo! Shop Amazon early holiday deals now.
Oh, we are back.
What are we doing tonight?
Well, the dog stole your arm.
Again?
And the humans are shopping with Rakuten.
What's Rakuten?
It's cash back at your favorite stores.
So it's like shopping the sales?
Better. It's cash back on top of sales.
What? I didn't know you could stack savings.
Girl, you can stack anything. Look at us.
Oh, look at us. Oh, shh. Don't look at us.
Don't look at us.
Rakuten. Whew, that was close.
An original documentary from CBS reports tensions rising between a powerful country and a vital island.
The supply of this technology came grinding to a halt. The world would grind to a halt.
Absolutely. As Taiwan faces threats and aggression,
Taiwan is on the front line, and we understand our responsibility as a democracy. We cannot fall.
CBS News examines whether they can defend themselves.
Putin, Ukraine, China, Taiwan, there are manifestations of the battle between autocracy and democracy. And that is a fight that we're all engaged in.
Defending Taiwan, now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Now streaming on the free CBS News app.
Come on, Julia. Oh, no. I will if you will.
You go, gal.
Superstar approaching, superstar approaching.
I want to make sure that my voice is heard, but also lift up other voices.
Hey, give me some love, baby. We'll see you 7 o'clock sharp.
I'm Lindsay Reiser at the CBS Broadcast Center in New York with coverage of CBS News America Decides. We begin with all eyes tonight on Pennsylvania. With 19 electoral college votes, it's the most valuable of the 7 battleground states. And it was the most visited state by the presidential candidates with more than 50 visits. Let's check in with CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang in Philadelphia. Weijia,